All right. Okay, I think
Yeah.
we're going to
We're
go.
we're 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 the only thing between them and a beer
Yeah, we
for the
better get
weekend.
started. All right. So let's get started. We're all here today to be talking about tips for a successful upgrade and how to make your ServiceNow upgrade, whether we're going to Xanadu or we're going to be going to Yokohama, smoother and easier. First thing as we go through, I want to make sure we talk about our safe harbor slide. We may talk about things that are forward-looking, that are coming in Yokohama or beyond. Please make sure you're only making buying decisions based out of what's released. If you have any questions, we can certainly clarify. I think most of what we're talking about is everything that has already been released, but I say things. So this is to cover me in case I talk too much about what's supposed to happen in Yokohama and beyond. This is part of an ongoing series of live at ServiceNow webinars. I'm glad that you're here, but there are many other webinars that you can take advantage of. So if you didn't know about all of these and you just got this link somehow, take a look at this QR code. Look us up in the ServiceNow community for live at ServiceNow, and you'll find webinars on everything how you can do with ServiceNow, whether it's ITSM, platform, CSM, HR, everything and anything and everything is covered by these live webinars. Specifically, I'm going to talk about my webinar series that come through. I work in the platform in our platform core, and we have several platform academies where we spend an hour talking about something in really detail, whether that is platform analytics, process mining, mobile, AI, lots more AI coming across. All of these run at least once a month, or twice a month. You'll find them in the community. If you go down to sn.works/academies or snap that QR code, you can get to our live sessions, which again, we do once or twice a month for each one of these. So there's 7 or 8 live sessions per month, and there are years and years of archives. My power tip for the day, it's going to make everything worth it for you spending an hour with us today. If you're ever searching for something about ServiceNow, specifically with the platform, type in ServiceNow Academy and then what you're looking for, and you'll probably find a webinar that talks about it and give you a lot of explanation about there, more than you're getting in the docs, and some discussion and questions about it. So huge
And
archive.
I'll give you I'll give the endorsement to support that. They're excellent. So they are
Uh,
well worth the time.
there's at least a lot of them. So they go a lot of detail. They also all cover what's new. So if you're going into Xanadu and you're looking for, hey, what's new with knowledge, or what's new with next experience in UIB, there's always new stuff coming in there. It's a great place to look at throughout the year for those what's new, but they're all available in the community on YouTube. The key is when you're searching on your favorite uh, search engine, ServiceNow Academy, and you'll find these ITSM, SPM. A lot of the other areas have them as well. Great resource for you. All right, some housekeeping as we go through. Um, we do have time at the end for Q&A. So please, if you have questions, put them into the Q&A window in Zoom. That makes sure that we can address them. We can follow up if we need to. So please use that Q&A button at the bottom. We might be able to get to some in the beginning, but we're going to try and get to them all at the end. This is being recorded. We will post it to the ServiceNow community and to YouTube a little bit later after we get a chance to edit it. And after the event, there is a short survey. If you don't mind taking that, letting us know how we did and how we can make this better for you and your colleagues, we'd really appreciate that. So I want to introduce our speakers. I'm going to start with me because I'm talking. My name is Adam Stout. I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. Been with ServiceNow for a little over 11 years. And I work in the platform business unit. I'm an outbound product manager. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about upgrades and a lot of the things that I talk about day in and day out. Up next, we have Paige. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm Paige Duffy. I am a principal product success manager here at ServiceNow, specifically in the App Engine workspace, but I have a bit of a passion for, well, all things platform, but especially upgrades. I've been at ServiceNow for a couple of years, but been in the ecosystem as a developer, honestly doing upgrades as a customer for about 13 years. So then I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Sure. My name's Jeff Allen. And like Paige, I've been around the ecosystem for about 14 years, first as a customer, like many of you all, I'm sure. So I owned the platform for a few years as a customer, and then been with ServiceNow for over 11 years, leading customer engagements for a long time, and then more recently joining the team to help curate and create leading practices for other implementers and customers to take advantage of.
Great. So we'll hear more from Paige and Jeff in just a moment, but before we get to them, we get to me. So let's talk about everything we're going to talk about today. The first thing we're going to cover is what do you need to upgrade? We're talking about upgrades, but what does an upgrade mean? And we want to talk a little bit more about that and relieve some of the confusion that might be what's going on. Jeff's going to talk about governance for upgrades. Really, really important that it's more than pressing a button and what your organization needs to do to be successful. Paige is going to take over with some upgrade tips and tricks, things that she's learned over her time with ServiceNow, and that we want to save you from having to learn the hard way. And then a demo of Upgrade Center, show off some of the things that are going to make these upgrades easier for you. And then I get to come back with some extra tools and things that I want you to be aware of beyond Upgrade Center that are going to make your upgrades easier and smoother every day that you go forward. So first, and then we do have Q&A at the end, like I said. And as we go, please put those questions into the Q&A, not into the chat. They can get lost in the chat, but the Q&A, make sure that we can follow up on those. So let's talk about upgrades. And the first thing in upgrades, the thing that we all talk about are family upgrades. So ServiceNow releases twice a year in March and September, Q1 and Q3, but March and September are when those come out. They're family releases. They upgrade everything. So those are what we are calling Utah, Vancouver, Washington, Xanadu, Yokohama, Zurich will be later in 25. And most of us have an N-1 or N-2 contract. So we support whatever release. So we're currently on the Xanadu release that was released last month in September. When we release, and we support N-2, which is Washington is N-1 and Vancouver is N-2. Different customers do have different support contracts, whether it's N-1 or N-2, but the releases we're supporting right now are Vancouver, Washington, and Xanadu. When Yokohama comes out in March, that will move forward. So it'll be supporting Washington, Xanadu, and Yokohama. It's important to know so that you can plan ahead. We want everybody to be on a very supported version. You get the latest security updates. You get all the great features. It's good for you. It's good for us to move forward. However, it doesn't mean that we force everybody to upgrade the day we release Yokohama. I will get to it, but I'm guessing that a few of us are not on Xanadu yet. You have control on when that happens, but we do move forward in that year-long cycle. So once right now we're in Xanadu. Xanadu is supported, Washington, D.C. is supported, and Vancouver is supported. So if you are, as we get into March, if you're on Vancouver, you need to be planning, are we going to go to Xanadu or are we going to go to Yokohama? Those are some of the things we want to talk about. So as we go forward, we want to know what release you're on right now, so we can kind of tune this session to what you're looking for. So I am going to launch a poll. If you don't mind answering for us, what release are you on? Are you on Utah? You can admit it. It's okay. I know there's a few of you out there. Vancouver, we'll shop some customers on Vancouver. And then I'm expecting a lot of customers on Washington, D.C. Since Xanadu just came out, and more customers moving to Xanadu. So let's see as that's coming in. Looking good. Let's give it a couple more seconds. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll so we can hopefully see what's coming in. And just like we'd expect, we are on, I'm going to share the results that come through, actually, maybe. As we come through, the bulk of us are on Washington, D.C. We have a good number on Xanadu and Vancouver. There's just a couple who are on Utah, and that's okay. But we definitely want to be planning on how we're going to get to Washington or Xanadu to come forward. We want everybody to stay on a supported release. Okay, so what to upgrade? We're talking about family releases, and that's important. We're on that family release, but there are more than family releases. We also release every quarter into the store. We release major features into the store every quarter, and there are patches that come out as well every month. So on this instance, this was one of my instances. I upgraded to Xanadu, and I had 159 store updates. So in addition to going to Xanadu, I had 159 updates that I could get to. I find that this is a bit daunting. And as I talk to people, I know there's a lot of things to review, a lot of things that can happen. And so I want to make sure we understand what this really means. So we have our family release of Vancouver, Washington, Xanadu, Yokohama, and we have all these store releases, but you don't have to do these upgrades. You don't have to do all of these. And the reason that is that we take those store updates that come out intermittently and we put them into the family releases. So I want to make sure everybody's clear. After you go to Xanadu, we had a store release in August. We'll have another store release in November. And everything that's released in November, if I can get it here, is going to be, it's actually this blue line. This was released in November. It's going to be merged into March. So when you do the Yokohama release, when you upgrade to Yokohama, you'll be getting everything that was in the August store release and the November store release, as well as everything that was in Xanadu. Yokohama is going to include all that. It won't include all of the new things that came out in February, but it'll include the things before that. There are a few exceptions to this, but the vast majority of things are going to be bundled into that. So if you're staying current with those family releases, you're still pretty current with all the store releases. Those store releases I think of as optional things that you can pick up, but you don't have to go through every one of those every time. But what I want to talk about is, well, what should I do? And so the strategies that I have on what of those 159 I want to upgrade, I'm going to look at the apps that I use. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade my family release, and then I'm going to go through my normal walkthrough, smoke testing of what goes on, the things I use. And many of the apps will tell me, hey, there's an update available. So in this case, I'm looking at the blueprints. I am looking at blueprints. The Blueprints app, Workflow Studio will tell me, and many other apps. When you open up Workflow Studio, it will tell you, hey, there's a new version. Go to the app manager and get it. And then I can get that get that one out of the 159. I don't have to look through those. I don't have to review all those. It will tell me. So you'll see this more and more. It's definitely Blueprints. It's in Workflow Studio, and a lot of the apps will have that for you. If you use it and there's a new version available, then maybe you want to upgrade it. You don't have to. Most of the time, you don't have to, but you probably will want to. I definitely go upgrade Workflow Studio every time there's an update available. We're releasing lots of new features. It's great. Makes my life easier. After those in-app notices, the next thing I look at are my blueprints. So in the admin center, there are implementation blueprints. I can go in there, and if I'm picking my goal, in this case, I want to reduce incidents and keep services flowing with AI-based automation. That's what I want to do. This is telling me the store apps and the plugins that help me do that. And those apps, sometimes they're new apps in the blueprints. As the blueprints get updated, hey, there's a new app that's going to help me do this that you're going to want to use. It will tell me that. I see this one in that red, not installed. And then I also see in the yellow needs an update. I had in this case, service operations workspace installed, but there's now an update. There was an update that came out since this release came out. So I can go get that. And I can look at these blueprints, and the same thing with the in-app notifications. We release in May. So let's say I go to Yokohama in March. We have a new update for the services operations workspace in May. When I look at this in May, it's going to tell me there's an update, and I can go look at that and choose. But it's directing me on the things that I need to have without having to just read and read and read and read and click and click and click and click. It's driving my view of these. And the next thing that I do, really the last thing, after those updates that I'm getting from the apps that are telling me there's an update, after the blueprint telling me something that I care about has an update or new functionality out there, I will look at the upgrade kit. So every release, we have a release upgrade kit. This has been going on for several releases, but definitely all the ones that are supported out there. You can see, I have a quick short link here for Washington, D.C. and Xanadu. If you're clever, you can figure out where the Vancouver one is. You can get to this from the community. If you go into the updates, upgrades and releases community, you'll find the upgrade kit down at the bottom of the page. If you scroll down, I'm gonna truncate it out of here, but you can scroll down to the upgrade kit. And this upgrade kit is awesome. I use it. It is one of the most important things that come out there. It's been a 250 page deck that you can that you can look at. It goes over all of the updates that were in the family release. In an hour or two, you can read through everything that came out in Xanadu, which is amazing to be able to do. We release so much content. You just can't watch every webinar, read every release note, but you can look through these and look at the pictures. I like pictures. It gets me excited about what's in there. It's also linked so that if you just want to go to CSM, you can do that. You want to go to field service, go to that. See what's in the platform, that as well. When you go through that, it should pique your interest to go, I want to learn more about that. And then you can go to the docs to find out, is that something in the store? Is it a plugin I have to activate? Do I need to buy this? Is it something that's going to help? Really great overview. What's available at these links is a PDF. If you want a PowerPoint, talk to your account rep and they can get a PowerPoint. I encourage you to use the PowerPoint internally to get your stakeholders excited who want to upgrade. Upgrading can be scary, but understand there's a huge benefit and functionality that's getting released every quarter. But sometimes you have to go turn it on, and you do have to get to a current release to be able to get to it. So really make sure you take a look at the release upgrade kit. Incredibly helpful. Okay. Oh, sorry. The other point with this one, look at stuff that you don't own. That's okay too. It is amazing to see what's capable. And sometimes looking through this, you might see something or see some functionality in HR, even though you don't have HR, that goes, that's really interesting. You can have a conversation with your solution consultant about, is that something I could do? Is that, that you can see what's possible and really drive some conversations about what we can do with ServiceNow, what ServiceNow can do for you.
Adam, do you want to take a quick question?
Quick question. Yes.
It was about the adoption blueprints. So the question
All
is
right.
basically doing it before or after family release upgrades. Kind of what's the perspective on that?
So the blueprints, I believe, are updated through the store. So I would probably update the warning we saw here, or the warning we saw here that there was an update available. I'd go grab the update so I can see what's in there. It might change when you upgrade. So I would do it before. There's nothing wrong with doing it at any time, but then you definitely want to do it afterwards. Once everything came synced up and I move up to Yokohama, there will be new plugins and new versions that will be available in Yokohama. Or there should be. So you definitely want to look at that once you have the family release installed, and then it will guide you from there. But as we get into all the store releases, and I think we'll talk a little bit about this before, but we'll say a couple times, it's up to you when you want to do your store updates. So because those things are bundled in, you can do some before, you can do them all at the same time, you can do them afterwards, right? And some of them you can only do afterwards. Some a store release in August might require Xanadu, so you have to be on Xanadu to get it. But some of the store releases are backward compatible to Washington, so you can time your what you want to do. And I think I don't want to ruin anybody's thunder, but it's important to think about it for you and what your organization. Do you want to do smaller upgrades more often, or do you want to do bigger upgrades less often? Different organizations have different patterns.
Yes, interesting. So I'll talk a little bit about that kind of from the planning governance kind of angle, and Paige will talk about that more from looking at how you manage the flow, right? The managing your scope. Yeah.
Yes. So the blueprints will let you give you some guidance on what to do. And the blueprints are really good to come through. I will also say, if you have impact, talk to your impact squad about some guidance about what you should upgrade when. Not everything. There's so much functionality out there, and sometimes there's some nuance. There's nothing beats talking to your impact squad. The blueprints are pretty good though. All right. With that, I want to hand it over to Jeff to talk about the leading practices for upgrades.
Yes, that's a nice segue. So thanks for that. Glad to share a few things here. Hopefully it'll be helpful. So I'm going to focus in on some different aspects around governance, and we'll kind of walk down a couple of different kind of layers. So just as all organizations need governance for the overall IT estate, within that, we recommend, of course, having a solid framework for decision making that aligns with the organization's mission and strategic objectives in support of the ServiceNow environment. And so they all have to tie together, of course. And it's all about establishing a framework for effective management. So as the slide depicts here, we see governance in this conversation broadly in three categories: the overall steering and oversight, technical oversight, and the demand oversight. So governance may feel like a scary word for some organizations. It's kind of seems like a big word, but done right, it doesn't have to be overly heavy. So at a high level, it helps realize the outcomes while managing risks and establishing the ways of working and maintaining compliance. So let's kind of walk through that a little bit more. It establishes the oversight of the technical environment. There you see kind of in the middle, and establishes how to respond to the requested changes to the technical environment, which would be the demands part on the right. So let's dive into a little bit about how this might relate to upgrades. Go to the next slide. So governance, as shown here, can set the scope and timing of upgrades. And again, as I said a minute ago, Paige will talk about that a little bit more. That's a super critical part of governance. It helps align and allocate the financial and the people resources to be able to perform the upgrades in any process. By overseeing the technical processes, it can ensure effective testing, and governance can help ensure effective, repeatable execution of the upgrades. And I'll go back to that word again in a minute. So governance ensures that your business data is protected, It helps promote communication, collaboration for a smooth upgrade process. So with this also, as you can imagine, with any kind of a change, you'll have risks, right? And so with upgrades, it introduces potential risks. That's not an exception for sure. But governance, if applied right, can ensure good risk management and security measures are in place throughout the upgrade process. So you can see how governance at a high level can relate to the upgrade requirement. So let's go on to the next slide. All right, so I want to camp out on this slide for a minute. Uh, Upgrades can be complex. Adam already sort of highlighted that. You got several different elements that can be upgraded, whether they are the large family releases or the smaller pieces. But if you're newer to ServiceNow as well, to the platform, then as I was when I was a customer, you have to kind of recalibrate and get used to the regular upgrades. As we kind of talked about already with Adam, they come a lot faster than you realize. They're twice a year on the family releases and more often for some of the store releases. And if you're used to other enterprise platform software, a lot of times that doesn't happen that often, or they're very difficult. You need to recalibrate your thinking about how you want to establish what is required in order to execute these. So the tools we have in the platform, and Paige will talk about that a little bit more, make it also much easier. So the technical governance, to dive into that a little bit more, will make it easier. So the key item here is that top bullet. It's essential to establish doing upgrades as a repeatable process. There's that word again. Processes need to have those established roles and responsibilities. That's what you have to do for a process. Repeatable flow that's followed, expected and measurable outcomes, end results. So this helps keep everyone accountable, keep them on the same page, working together toward those same goals. So in addition here, relative to that process perspective, governance sets standards and policies that are used in the process. One of the most important things that it can do is to help manage the risk. We've already kind of touched on that, making sure you've got effective testing procedures and managing the requirements for having communications, so communication plans, and we'll dive a little deeper on that in a minute, to make sure everybody can collaborate and communicate. And then the last bullet is really essential. As with any process, you want to continue to improve it. So knowledge sharing and learning as you go through performing upgrades, you want to fold that back into how you're going to do that. So the only way to do that is if you have a process that you can continue to improve. So let's dive one step deeper on the communication aspect. So communication, of course, is important with any project. If you've been around our world, you know that. Well, that's where governance can come in to help out as well. It's not just happenstance. It's not ad hoc. With governance, you really build in a communication plan that outlines how everybody can stay in the loop. You get all the right info at the right time to the right people through the right channels. And if you do that well, then you can make sure you minimize misunderstandings and any confusion that might occur otherwise. With governance, then everybody knows what's going on, how they fit into the bigger picture. So everybody can be comfortable and can be in sync. So really kind of bottom lining all of that, governance encourages using smart technology to help everybody stays connected, and it ensures everyone is on the same page, working together toward the same goal. That's really kind of the bottom line for everybody wanting to get a good, successful upgrade.
All right.
Paige,
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Paige, you're up. Let's learn how we can make life much easier for all of us.
Yeah, I am happy to start on that conversation. Apologies, I was trying to answer a question in the Q&A. So I did not quite realize it was my turn, but yeah, so we're going to talk about some tips and tricks for successful upgrades. A lot of what I'm talking about over the next few slides are things that I have pulled directly from my own experience. So, since I had to live it, I like to share it with others so they do not have to experience the same things, hopefully. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about is limiting your scope. And when we are talking about limiting your scope, we're really talking about ways to reduce the risk to your upgrade. What that means are removing things like Major enhancements. So we're talking about activating new plugins or applications, delaying your normal ServiceNow release, even if it's just for a few days. So if you would normally release on a Wednesday, and that's the same day as your upgrade, then you may want to delay that, until Friday or until Saturday, just long enough to get your upgrade done, see if there's anything that comes out of the upgrade, and then do your release. You just don't want to overlap those two things and then run into potential issues and be left going, is this the upgrade that's the problem, or is it something we released? So ultimately, your upgrade should really only be about your upgrade. One thing to consider here, though, is that you may want to go ahead and update your store apps during this time. We're just really talking about avoiding activating new features or new apps as part of the upgrade. Next, we really want to focus on a pleasant upgrade experience for your users. So by not pulling in new features, by not doing your normal release, you're just really focusing on the upgrade. You're kind of fixed focused on what that upgrade experience is like. You're fixed focused on, the next day after your upgrade. So were there any issues that came out of it? If there were, that they likely came from the upgrade, and it makes it a little easier for you to resolve it. So ultimately, again, it's just providing that pleasant, seamless experience for your users. And then lastly, of course, we're looking to reduce risk. So again, just to reiterate, incidents that come in after your upgrade, you're going to be more sure that they're related to your upgrade, and that does make it easier to fix any sort of incidents or defects that come in after the upgrade. You can also set up something like an office hours or something for your pro dev team the day after the upgrade, so they can see if anything comes in and they can really focus on that upgrade. The next thing I want to talk about is setting your expectations and setting them early. So essentially, you want to communicate your expectations very clearly to your stakeholders. This helps relieve kind of that fear of blame. It provides a transparency that's incredibly important. And then lastly, again, it helps you focus on a good experience. So you're communicating with your stakeholders, you're communicating with your end users, you're letting everyone know what's happening, when it's happening, how it's happening. You're setting expectations, such as we're not installing new plugins, we're not installing new applications. Sometimes some of your stakeholders may be chomping at the bit. We want this brand new thing that just came out. You're letting them know that is not part of the scope of the upgrade. You're also letting your stakeholders know when your testing windows are. So if they're responsible for a portion of testing, you're letting them know when to start, when to stop, and when they need to do that testing. You're also letting them know where to report defects. So where they report them, how they report them, what information is required. For example, if you want to ensure that it's easy to track your defects back to the actual upgrade, maybe you want them to put the release name, the new release name somewhere in that defect, or you have a way for them to connect it back to that release that you're upgrading to. Also set up an upgrade timeline. So, I just talked a little bit about the expectations, testing windows, etc., but actually provide a timeline. Let them see visually what that looks like. So here's where we're going to upgrade our development environment, and we're going to start that entire process. Here's where your testing windows are. Here's where we stop testing. Here's where we actually start the upgrade, and even provide an actual go live schedule for them. So what does it look like the day of the upgrade? What are our expectations from you? Do we want you to come in and do some testing directly after the upgrade to make sure everything's resolved? So just having all of that clear in a way that your stakeholders and your users can understand, and making it accessible. And then lastly, once we get out of, setting expectations and reducing the risk, we really want to look at ways that we can reduce that upgrade time. So there are a couple things to think about whenever you're wanting to, say, bring your upgrade time down from 8 hours to 6 hours. Perhaps you have a specific change window that you have to abide by. Perhaps your upgrade has just gotten crazy long from all of your other upgrades, or you just want ways to reduce that time. As a quick reminder, when you're upgrading, your instance is not necessarily down, but your users can experience some less than stellar performance or other potential issues while that upgrade is occurring. So minimizing that time never hurts anything. But before we can actually minimize the upgrade time, we have to actually understand how long it's going to take. So the first thing that I really recommend is doing something that I call an audit clone. I don't know if that's the normal terminology, but essentially it is a clone that is as close to your production instance as is possible. Typically, when most customers do clones, they do not copy everything down from their production instance into that cloned instance, which means it's not quite the exact same as your production instance. It may not have the same amount of data, generally excludes log data, which can be quite beefy, and attachment data. We do that for a reason, but when we're doing upgrades, we want to consider whether or not that's really something we should be doing. So for this audit clone, we are including the audit tables and the log data and the attachments, but this gives us a more realistic environment when we're doing our upgrade. And there's really two reasons we want to do that. One, again, it gives us a better idea of how long that upgrade is going to take, because it's about as closest to production as you can get. And it gives us a better testing environment. So again, it more closely resembles your production environment for that testing. One other thing to note, once you're done with this full audit clone, this is actually a really good time to also run your automated test if you have any. And if you don't have any, might be worth considering. We have a couple things like quick start test and test generation that can kind of help you get started with ATF. But if you do need hands-on guidance, I think we cover it a little bit later on in the deck, but we also have an impact accelerator to help you start going with ATF. So now that we have our full audit clone, we want to understand what we can do with that upgrade to see, essentially to determine how we can shorten that length of time. That is, of course, assuming that the length of time is unreasonable, or again, you've noticed a jump. In my past, we went from something like a 4-hour upgrade to an 8-hour upgrade, and that exceeded the change window that we were allowed. And so we had to look for ways to try and minimize that. Plus, we were a little concerned about why it took so long, because that is quite the jump. So we started looking at things like the upgrade center and using that to help identify the items that took the longest duration. And I'll show this here in a minute in the demo, but down towards the bottom of the upgrade center, you see what you see in the screenshot, which is essentially the schema changes and the plugin changes that took the longest amount of time. And what you can do from here is look into, especially those plugin changes or those application changes, and see if there's anything that you can go ahead and upgrade prior to your upgrade. So, what plugins you can go ahead and update to their newest version before you get to the upgrade, and potentially lessen that time. So you're getting them out of the way before the upgrade comes into place. All right, and then one other thing I want to cover, and this helps to lessen how long it takes for your development team to actually start or to get through things like skipped records. Hopefully you are managing your skipped records, but every time you do an upgrade, there are records that are skipped, generally due to customizations done to those out-of-the-box records. And that means that your administrators or developers have to go through each one of those records and make a determination. A lot of times, though, those records are the same thing over and over again, like notifications, and you're never going to necessarily revert notifications. You probably customize them for your particular organization, and you want them to stay that way. So there's a couple things that you can do with skipped records. You can make a decision for all notifications. We're just going to go ahead and, keep them the way they are. You can decide to revert them. You can also decide to assign them. So perhaps instead of making an automatic decision, you want to say, for all the notifications, I want, this particular group to take a look at them and make that decision. So it's taking some of the administrative overhead off of your development team. And then I think we have another quick poll. And I'm not entirely sure how to fire that poll off. Here we go. You should see a poll now, but essentially, when are you planning to upgrade to Xanadu? Are you already on it? Is it going to be in the next 3 months, 6 to 9 months, or you're just not really sure what that looks like? Give everyone a couple of minutes to answer. It's nice to see if there are already a couple of you that are on Xanadu. Looks like we actually have every.
And a good chunk are coming in the next couple months, which is why they're here today. So hopefully they're paying attention to this. And as a note, this is going to be recorded and posted into the community on YouTube. So if you need to share this recording with some of your team, you'll be able to do that. All right, I think we have most of the responses in. So I'll go ahead and there we go.
Oh. And then share those out so everyone can see. Essentially just reflects what you were saying.
There was a note, we're missing 3 to 6 months. So we'll
yeah, we
next
are. I guess if you're in the 3 to 6 month window,
That's funny.
That is funny.
No, you're not allowed to upgrade between 3 and 6 months.
We block that window out. We don't actually block that window out. Please don't think we do.
Yeah.
All right. When you go from being a customer to working at the company, you realize you have to be a little more careful about what you say sometimes. But moving on. So a couple of bonus things. I wanted to talk real quickly about backing up production. And the reason why this is a bonus is because it's not something that is possible for every company. A lot of it depends on your environment setup. But what this is basically talking about is taking your production instance and cloning it to a sub-production instance just prior to your upgrade. So essentially taking a snapshot of that instance and its state just before your upgrade. Again, something like a full audit clone to that sub-production. And the reason why this is not necessarily available to everyone is because we recommend that you keep it for about 2 weeks. So if you do not have a sub-production instance that can just sit there stagnant for about 2 weeks, it's probably not an option for you. But if you can do it, it's a great thing to do. And the primary reason why is that when defects come in, you can make a determination as to whether or not that defect is really caused by the upgrade. And while at the end of the day, we want to fix all defects, it gives us the opportunity to prioritize those that are new and caused by the upgrade versus those that were already existing and people are just noticing them, probably because they're being a little more critical of what's going on in the system.
Hey, Paige, as we're talking about this, so a question came in about how do you do a backup? Can you clarify what you meant by that? How you get a production backup?
I can. You run a clone, essentially. So this is the same thing as what I was talking about. This is not the backups like what ServiceNow does for you for your instances. I'm essentially saying take a clone of that instance, of that production instance, down to one of your sub-production instances. Calling it a backup because you're essentially not doing anything with it. It is sitting there stagnant again, just as a place to kind of bounce defects and other issues off of. But this is what I mean by running a clone.
And that's a great point to kind of differentiate, because when you were describing earlier, the purpose of that clone was you're going to run the upgrade against it so you can learn about how long it's going to take as you went through. Whereas this one it's standing idle, so you can compare, like you said, is something happening? Is it really a true defect, or was it already there, et cetera, et cetera?
Correct. Yeah. As an aside, I also like doing this because as a kind of after action, I like to see what kind of issues came out of the upgrade. I like to know, as a platform owner, as a developer, how many issues we missed going into the upgrade, if we missed any issues. And it's also a great thing to turn around when you go, hey, we only had 2 incidents from that entire upgrade. So it looks great. It looks great on the environment, and it's just some nice statistics to have. Alrighty. And then lastly, I did want to quickly show kind of an example of the timeline that I was talking about. This probably would have been better placed back where I was talking about the timeline. I'll think about that in the future and getting that moved. But this is what I was talking about when I was talking about having a timeline that was available for your customers. Of course, I would hope that you would have dates on this, but it also gives you an idea of when to do the different things that we just went through. So typically, again, this is the information you would share, probably just the headers, but the information you would share with your stakeholders, as well as a good idea for you about where we would put these individual tasks we just talked about. So, in week 1, we're prepping our sub-production instances, we're performing that full clone audit, and we're scheduling our upgrade. After that, we're remediating those skip changes, hopefully using the skipped record rules. And then we have our testing window. That may vary from company to company. It'll vary if you're doing all manual testing or ATF or some combination of the two. But again, you want to share that testing window and make it very clear how long your testers have to test if you have individuals coming in to do testing. Next, we have the actual week of the upgrade. That's when you're going to do that production clone. For me, I like to do it as close to the actual upgrade as is humanly possible. So after any sort of releases or anything that I have done into the production instance, but before my upgrade, obviously. And then we actually upgrade. Next, the day after the upgrade, consider having something like post-upgrade support. Essentially have a plan in place, whether that's having your team sit on a call for a couple of hours, or you have a way for those stakeholders to get a hold of you in the event that something major is going on. Just have a plan in place. And then 1 to 2 weeks after that, that's when you can start really resuming business as usual, releasing your regular releases, activating new plugins, and then release that production backup instance back into your normal upgrade cycle. All right, and then this last screen is kind of just a quick rehash of everything that I talked about. I like to provide this for people who like screenshots, so you can get a nice screenshot of everything that we just covered. And then we have another poll. Thank you. All right, so the next poll is, before we get into the demo of the Upgrade Center, do you currently use the Upgrade Center? And if you don't, hopefully we'll get you using it. While some of those answers are coming in, I did see one quick question in chat that I'll go ahead and answer. So if there's a defect, how can I find out it's due to the upgrade? Honestly, you have to dig in to find out. There's not necessarily a quick and easy way to go, oh, that issue is strictly due to the upgrade, which again is why I talk about putting some of those protections in place, and like not putting any new releases in with your upgrade, and if you can, doing that production backup. Because what you can do in that particular scenario is you can take that defect, you can replicate it in one of your sub-production or production environments if need be, to determine that it is a true defect. And then you can go back to that backup or that clone of production prior to the upgrade and confirm whether or not it's still occurring. Because if it's occurring in your instance pre-upgrade, your backup instance, then it can't possibly be because of the upgrade. All right, and it looks like we have the poll results. So we have, well, I mean, a pretty good mix of people both using it and not using it, and a lot of people that would like to use it. So hopefully I can share a couple things here, and we'll help you start using it. So give me just 2 seconds and I will switch over to
As you're switching over, there's a question about cloning and specifically with integrations, and is that a good idea? And I think that's why we use the preservers and some certainly credential preservers and exclusions. So if you are doing integrations, it's something to be aware of to walk through. So make sure you read about what you're doing and understand what's coming through so you don't copy over everything and cause some duplicate data to get processed. But it's
Yes.
everybody has integrations. It is something that's pretty normal and is easy to handle.
Yeah, and when we're talking about like the audit clone, we're really talking about bringing in the audit data, the log data, the attachment data, not necessarily talking about not using the preservations and exclusions that are in place. So again, it's not going to be a one-for-one copy of production. It's just about as close as you can get. So, all right. So you should now see my screen.
Yep, you see it?
Hmm?
You see it?
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see Upgrade Center.
Oh, okay.
Make sure you know what we see. Good.
So, all right. So there's a few options underneath Upgrade Center. You'll see some of the old stuff. We'll just pretend like that's not there anymore. So we're looking at everything underneath Upgrade Center. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I did want to hit a couple of high points and things that we talked about. So the first one is previewing your upgrade. So you can do a preview based on your current version and the version that you want to move to. It does take a little while. I was actually not 100% sure this is going to be done in time to show you, but it is, thankfully. And it'll give you some basic information on, potentially how long it took, if you have an upgrade scheduled, some release note information, the records that were changed, some things that is predicted to need reviewing. And then just some additional information. If you have ATF set up, you'll get some results down here as well. So it's just a good way to kind of get an idea of what that upgrade is going to look like before you actually do it. And it does not have to be a family upgrade necessarily. You can do a patch upgrade. So if you're doing patches from patch 7 to 8, you can also use this to kind of see what the changes look like. From there, I did want to quickly show the upgrade monitor. So for this particular I'll make the screen real estate a little bit bigger here. So this is actually post upgrade. So again, if we're in our upgrade center, we're right here for our upgrade monitor. So post upgrade, this is where you want to come. It will tell you how long the actual upgrade took. So again, if you're doing this in your sub-production instance, this is where you can get information on how long that upgrade took. Again, more release notes. It looks very similar to the preview, only now instead of predicted records, you actually have the records that you need to review, the things that have been reviewed, and then their priority and some other metrics to look at. And again, if you had ATF that was run, you'll see some results here. You also see some results around the node upgrades, and then applications that need to be upgraded. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, we'll see what I was talking about earlier, which is these bottom areas here. So again, if your upgrade took an exceedingly long amount of time, this is kind of where you can go to see some possible reasons for that. You may see that a fixed script was, not that I think we do this, but was adding a field to the CMDB table, and that is what took so long. That would be a terrible fixed script, but gives you an idea of, potential things to look at. The duration was 3 hours, and you can start looking into that and kind of figuring out why or what's going on. Even more importantly, down here, we have our plugins. So again, if you have some plugins in here, the upgrade I was talking about with my past company, we had a lot of integration hub plugins that were being activated for some reason as part of the upgrade, and those were actually what was taking so long. So we were able to go ahead and apply those plugins in our instance prior to the upgrade and get our upgrade time down significantly and back into that acceptable window. But I used this right down here to determine which plugins it was that were part of the upgrade and which ones were taking so long. So from there, I do want to look at a couple of other, just real quickly, a couple of other things. So we do now have high risk customization. So these are files that you have customized as an organization that are of a medium or higher risk. So something to look a little closer at. And then of course we have upgrade history, and I won't go too much into that. And the last thing I wanted to look at was the upgrade skipped record rules. So, you know, I mentioned these briefly, but this is where you can make some decisions based on those skipped records. Every single time I have notifications, I just want to, you know, keep my modifications and retain them, or I want to assign them to a specific user, a specific group. These are very, very handy. If anyone has been around ServiceNow for a very long period of time, you would probably very, very much appreciate these, because we used to have to go through a lot more skipped records. It's improved significantly over the years. So,
Paige, we have a question about the skip record rules.
yeah.
It doesn't seem possible to take skipped errors and make them reviewed automatically. Is that by design, or is there a way to do that?
I am not aware. I am not sure. I would assume it's by design. I would assume that if there is an error, we want you to look into why there might have been an error, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
It's a good question, though. They do come up occasionally. I have seen them. Right. Any other questions on this particular part before I hand it back over? All right. And then
All right. So I think I'm going to take over and
Yeah.
start talking about some couple more things to think about. So let's talk about some extra tools to come through, and I think we're going to hit some of the questions that have come in as well. I'll just confirm you're seeing my screen now.
yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're talking about some extra tools. Now this comes in, we've had a couple questions about ATF come up. So let's talk about the applications you're going to use in ServiceNow to make your, other than Upgrade Center or in addition to Upgrade Center, going to make your upgrade easier. So the first one is ATF, the automated test framework. This is part of the platform. It's free. You should be using it. Specifically, the second bullet in here is about the test generator. So the test generator is also free. It's a store app. This is actually one that doesn't merge in to come through, but you can get it from the store. That will allow you to look at your data that's on your instance, and it will generate tests. This is like this big warm hug for me about upgrading, because it is looking at my data, figuring out how do I get that data, and then it works really well with what Paige said. So then you take your clone, or I take my full clone that I can get, full list clone that's not quite identical but really good and has all this data in it. You run the test generator, come back the next morning. It can take some time to go through. It will create a fingerprint of what that instance looks like, of how it behaves. Then you do your upgrade, and then you run it again. And all you had to do was press a button, but now you're going to have the instance and ATF identify changes in behavior. And it might use failure, but it's not failures. It's changes in behavior, which might be good, might be bad, but it's things for you to look at. So test generator and ATF is definitely something you want to put in. There's a lot of other things you can do with ATF. We can talk about ATF for hours, but the test generator, very easy to use. It's a couple clicks, and you can really bolster your confidence about how smooth this upgrade is going to be, right? And it works, again, really, really well with what Paige said about taking that clone. If you run it on a dev instance that doesn't have any data, then you're going to be testing something that doesn't have any data, and we want to test data. So it's important to use that same design. Upgrade Center, we talked about, we looked at those things. Instant Scan is also a great tool to use, where you can create your own static code analysis. It's going to look at your configuration and look for things that are not good. That's not so much about on the upgrades as about every update set, every change that comes through, to make sure we're not causing more problems. Instant Scan is something you can do with every change that goes out to your instance to make sure we're making it easier to upgrade, smoother to upgrade to come through. We're following best practices. You can write your own, several ship out of the box. Application Manager, well, you don't have a choice, you're going to use it. The Application Manager is where you're going to activate plugins. It's also where you're going to get the store apps. So you want to use that to come through. That is an area we're trying to improve, give you some more visibility into, expect some improvements in there. Good thing I said my safe harbor at the beginning, but I want to make that easier for you. And a question that we had about out of the box, when you've changed a lot of the out of the box behaviors, there's two things that I want to say. One is the configuration hub. Works for scoped apps. It will tell you all the modified files. So you can go look at all the changes outside of the upgrade process, outside of skips. You can look at Upgrade Hub, use Configuration Hub to see what has changed and if you want to revert back to what was in there. Really, really good insight for scoped apps on what's going in there. So if you haven't looked at that, that might be something you want to consider. And I am going to put into the chat, when I can find this, a link to one of the platform academies that we did about upgrades in Washington that talks about how do I know is this modification that I'm going to make, this change, gonna bite me or not. One of the things that we added, and I don't have a screenshot of it right now, but when you go to edit a file, it's looking at the file and metadata that we have about how often do we change this, and how often do we change this, so that you know if ServiceNow changes this a lot, you probably don't want to change it because it's just going to create a skip record. Or there might be some other records that go, we never change. They're really safe to do. So when you're modifying metadata records, you'll see a warning in there if it's something that that will quantify the risks for you on how likely this is to cause a problem, how likely it is to cause a skip in the future, and inform what you want to do. All right. So we talked about the apps that are in here. So these are all things that are important to have. Again, I pretty much all of these, if you go into ServiceNow Academy, Configuration Hub, ServiceNow Academy, Instant Scan, you'll find hours of webinars that are out there. Make sure you go for the most recent stuff first, because some of the stuff can be a little bit old, but a lot more in-depth detail on that. I said it. Oh, well, that's right. It's the next slide. You have questions? We all have questions. How do I do this? Has anybody seen that? Use the community. You go to ServiceNow, community.servicenow.com, and you can ask questions. There's a ton of webinars out there. It's where this one I think is going to get posted. It's where the upgrade kit is. Place to ask questions from partners, ServiceNow, other customers can answer those for you. We have lots of customers. Everybody's upgrading. You can find those resources and find somebody that has some suggestions for you. You'll notice in some of the things we say, things you have to think about because of the size, different size of customers, because of how long you've been there in different situations. There's not a one size fits all, and this is how you should do it. But we can talk about the things you can consider, like Jeff talked about, and asking those questions to try to find some other people that are like you. You'll be able to find the right answer and the right fit for you. But you're not alone. We've all done this. And the upgrade kit, I talked about it before. I want to talk about it again. You want to hit that. You want to make sure you're referencing that that's in the releases and upgrades forum. And if you're an impact customer, there is a Jumpstart accelerator. An accelerator, Jumpstart your upgrade. There is also Jumpstart your ATF, two great accelerators where you will get some hands-on feedback and get to talk to some very knowledgeable people one-on-one about what is the best upgrade strategy for me. We are talking a little bit of things to consider, but if you use the Jumpstart Your Upgrade Accelerator, you can really get some coaching on what's going to be best for you. There is one for upgrades in general. There is one specifically for ATF, among many other great accelerators for you. If you need help, there's also expert services. You can call on them, and as Paige said before, she helped many customers before, whether it's partners or it's ServiceNow. There are lots of resources to help you on what you need to do to have a successful upgrade. And as Jeff said, it's something you need to be doing all the time. The more you put it off, the more painful it is. And understanding how to get into that cycle for you and your organization is going to give you more functionality, more robust functionality. You make all your processes better. It's something you want to make sure you plan how to upgrade and don't get dragged along. Get in front of it, and you're going to be much better off.